Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Disgustingly Resilient podcast, and in this one we're going to look at the top 5 mistakes that I think most new or even seasoned Death Guard players make that is costing them their victories in their games. So this isn't to belittle or to sit with a big head, it's just a way to help identify what I think are some of the more common mistakes people make when they're playing this army for the first time or trying to get into the competitive scene with it, and these mistakes can often end up costing you a game. Some of these are in-game mistakes, some of these are pre-game mistakes, but we'll get into it. But for now, if you do enjoy the content of this channel, please feel free to leave a like and a subscribe. It really helps the channel grow more than you could ever imagine. And if you really want to support us, consider becoming a Plague Marine member by hitting the join button below. $2.99 a month gets you into the Discord, which you'll never be kicked from even if you cancel your membership. And you get access to our giveaways, the Plague Surgery, all that kind of good stuff there. So if you want to support the channel, consider it. If not, let's get into it and look at the first of 5 Death Guard mistakes. So the first mistake we're going to be looking at today is understanding Contagion for Death Guard. Contagion is our most important rule, and it is the bread and butter of what makes this army function. This is your army rule. This is the aura that is around all of your units, your ability to afflict your opponent, give them the -1 toughness, give them the additional contagion you've picked. And you have to understand how important this rule is for making our army work. Not only does it increase our output, it can also increase our output even further with -1 save. It can increase our durability with -1 to be hit. It can also, give you little playmaking abilities where you can, drop in Death Shroud, unlock some stratagems that require the targets to be in afflicted areas. There's lots of different ways that Contagion is beneficial to your army, and it's very important that we use it correctly. Without Contagion, we lose tons of output. We lose everything's now +1 toughness. Well, it's normal toughness, which means a lot of our profiles are worse. They have better armor saves against us, makes us more prone to, getting hit by the opponent if you've took -1 to hit. It's a lot of difference. If you ever played the game, you've ever shot something like fetid bloat drones at a target that's in cover, AP2, not ignoring cover, is not the same as having a target that is -1 toughness and -1 save at the same time. Now, players often focus on using Contagion, but don't think about applying the Contagion. So it's very easy in your list build to go, oh, this thing does this much damage because it's going to be AP3 instead of 2. They'll only be -1 toughness. I'm going to smash them to pieces. And Death Shroud are going to come in 6 inches away from this unit, charge in, absolutely smash it. But they neglect actually thinking the question of, cool, that all happens when they're in Contagion, but how do we get them in Contagion? It's quite often a thing people forget about. And what we actually see often is people who will sacrifice units that are great Contagion spreaders for things like victory points. So, for example, area denial, people often run out a unit of Poxwalkers or Spawn into the middle to get some points. Now, don't get me wrong, points win games and points are important. But sometimes, if that costs you one of your little cheeky Contagion spreaders that started up the board, you can actually find yourself unable to get your foot in the game because the forward momentum and pressure you had from those units was sacrificed completely for a couple of VP. So score 2 VP early, sure, but it might have cost you the game later on. So how do we go about fixing the problem? The first one is obviously look into list building. Dedicated Contagion spreaders. So when you build your list, you want to include units that are sole purpose, their main purpose at least, is to spread Contagion. Fantastic units for this are Chaos Spawn. Chaos Spawn, you often see quite often 2 units or 2 in a list. They have Scout. They move 8. They can move through buildings. They can advance. And that means you can potentially get a 14-inch move plus a Scout 6. 20 inches turn 1 if you need it. You're probably not gonna, but it's there. And what it means is this unit is the fastest movement. We have vehicles that can move 10, but being able to go through walls actually makes these guys often more mobile. And it's the fastest unit in our game that's able to go and push out Contagion range onto our opponent. So I would always include Spawn in my list, and their main purpose is to be dedicated Contagion spreaders. Now, don't get me wrong, if they can score a victory point or 2 while doing that, sure, but I'm not going to be throwing this unit away to score some VP just for the sake of VP when I need them later on to spread Contagion. Now, if you're more of a shooting list, let's say you're not bringing really Death Shroud or anything like that, and you're more focused on like Predators and shooting Demon Engines, Plague Marines can become dedicated Contagion spreaders. Their main purpose is now to hop out, shoot, 5-man shoots its guns, hits the target, puts it in Contagion because that's their rule. After they've shot, they pick a target they've hit, they're now Contagioned, and the rest of your guns can fire and kill that target. So that could be a use of a dedicated Contagion spreader. And then Poxwalkers, they start up the field, they have Infiltrate. They're not the fastest little buggers out there, but they can come in large units, they can spread out quite a bit on the board, and with a cheeky advance roll, they can often get to places they need to be to spread that all-important Contagion. Now, this can also come into things like detachment choice. For example, if you're playing Hammer of Mortarion, you might not actually need as many dedicated Contagion spreaders, because their detachment rule lets you just pick 2 units outside of 12 of any unit in your army, and they're automatically in Contagion. So you can pick the priority targets you need to kill, put them in Contagion, or you can pick the unit you definitely want to drop Death Shroud 6 inches away from, pick those units, and then go and charge it. Now, I'm not going to say you should completely abuse that and just like ignore all natural Contagion spreaders, but it's a way to alleviate the pressure on your Contagion spreaders because you do have the ability to pick 2. Now, if you want Vectorum, for example, they can have a stratagem to give your entire army plus 3-inch Contagion range, which means on that go turn, so long as you've got the CP for it, you don't have to worry so much about having forward pressure because the extra 3 inches might be enough to catch multiple units in Contagion that were normally safe. It means you don't have to bank on like a 6 on advance. Now you can just roll a 3, for example. So that's another way, if you're playing the game, that you can look at your detachment and go, I've picked a detachment that gives me the ability to have better Contagion ranges, so therefore my dedicated Contagion spreaders, I don't need as many perhaps because I'm going to be able to extend the range of the few that I do have. Taliban, same thing here. Extra Contagion range for Death Guard when they're near Nurgle Demons. If you're going to bring Demons, you guys are going to be near them. Now it's much more efficient for them to spread Contagion. You don't have to wait as long to get out there with those large auras. So again, it just helps you understand that when you're bringing Contagion into your list, because it's a genuine thought process, you have to think about what's bringing Contagion. Taliban, in that instance, all the demons, in a way, are supplementing your Contagion. And then there's playstyle changes. So unit preservation. Again, stop throwing away key units for 2 victory points. You got turn 1. Your opponent's got area. You got area denial turn 1. Sorry. You got a unit of chaos spawn in the middle. To get it, they'll have to walk into the open in the middle. Now your opponent is behind the wall on the other side, so you're only going to get the 2 victory points. Really consider it for a second. Is it really worth throwing away one of your like only 2 dedicated, fairly fast Contagion spreaders for 2 victory points? Because if you lose this and then turn 3 comes along and your opponent's killed your chaos spawn, what's going to then push forward to spread Contagion? As long as your opponent stays away, that's going to be quite hard to do. So sometimes it isn't worth throwing away, again, for the sake of 2 victory points. Think about it, we're also in a challenger card meta. You could drop the 2 victory points, puts you now behind for a challenger card, and draw a really easy challenger card next turn, which will score you 3 anyway, so you're actually 1 up in this situation. So just bear that in mind. And also remember, it's okay to wait a turn. You can roll in advance and stay behind a wall. If I look at my spawn and go, right, for my plan to go forward this turn, I need to get a 5 on advance, and I roll the dice and I roll 2, I'm just going to stay where I am. I'm not going to bother putting him out there, because if I'm not going to get the ideal Contagion I want off, I'm not going to throw that unit away to its death. There's no point. It is okay. It is better for you to wait a turn to get a good Contagion drop off rather than lose an asset for absolutely no reason to pick up like some scouts or something. And then Poxwalkers. Stop throwing away Poxwalkers. Like, they're genuinely really good. Infiltrate on these guys, keep them nice and safe, wait for the time to be right, don't just walk them out as if, like, everyone sees Poxwalkers as expendable chaff, and they are, do not get me wrong, they are, but always try and make sure you're going to keep a unit back for Contagion if it's really important, because again, you don't want to be caught in the open when you've not got the ability to spread Contagion late game. Now your Death Shroud have to Rapid Ingress or come away 9, and it all goes up badly there. And then plan ahead. Dedicate units to areas of the board. When I'm deploying my spawn, I'm thinking this guy's going to take care of this quarter of the board, this guy's going to be my Contagion spreader for this quarter of the board. And I know that in my head, so it's important to keep them alive and then back them up accordingly if I think I'm going to need more Contagion in an area of the board. Set up multiple threats of Contagion. If you have a single unit of Chaos Spawn sat in the middle and your opponent sees that and goes, that unit can Contagion my entire army, they might put a bit more effort into getting rid of that one unit. But if you threaten multiple units at the same time, they either have to expose multiple expensive units in their army to make sure they kill them all, or they can't really stop it all happening. Maybe they can stop one, but the other two are guaranteed going to go in. Never have yourself in a scenario where your entire Contagion plan banks on a single unit surviving. It's just not great. And obviously remember the standard staging. Find a nice piece of cover in the midboard, hide in there for a turn, wait, don't rush out, stay in there, threaten Contagion range. Contagion range is a threat as much as it is actually making use out of it. It can make your opponent play cagey, stay back, which prevents them coming forward, which is great for you for holding primary, etc. and not getting pressured. And then also remember things like Contagion combos. For example, Deathlord's Chosen, 1 command point, give a Terminator unit plus 3-inch Contagion range. Let's say we're on turn 3, my opponent's played really cagey, really far back. They really don't want to let anything, nothing is within advanced range of them. They think they're 100% safe. Then suddenly, in the command phase, I go, Solo Typhus, you're going to have plus 3-inch Contagion range. So now he's 12. He's then going to drop in 9 inches away from my opponent, well 9.1 away, but I've given him a 12-inch Contagion range. So now everything that he's dropped in nearby is now Contagioned, and now I can follow that up with the next squad of Death Shroud because Contagion is instant 6 inches away, and then go for the charge. Boom, 1 Typhus coming in with a stratagem. There's a new Contagion threat, and that has enabled me to make a playmaking play with the Death Shroud. So yeah, always focus on Contagion, super important rule. Don't sacrifice units and your ability to spread Contagion for the sake of a couple of VP, and understand and have a plan for how you're going to get your opponent in Contagion range and keep them there. On to the next one. Okay, we got some attachment issues here, guys. I'm sorry, we're too attached to our characters. We have a literal ton of characters. They are amazing, amazing, amazing characters. Well, part of Plague Surgeon, he's a pile of crap. But we have plenty of amazing units. And plenty of these units, these characters, give our units amazing buffs. A lot of these characters, however, have rules that you don't actually need to be in a unit to give them. Sometimes it's better to be in a unit, but you don't always need to have it. Think of Foul Blightspawn, for example. Yes, he gives his unit once per game fight first, and that is incredibly good, but at the same time, he still has a 9-inch aura of no one can finish or start an advance within. That's really good for protecting primary. Think about that. And then all of our Terminator characters are deadly in their own right. A lot of Contagions are stupid, they're stupidly deadly, but even a lot of Virulence has 5 attacks at weapon skill 2, strength 8, AP 2/3 because of Contagion, and damage 2, all with lethal hits. They're all pretty good. So what's the problem here? Well, players always feel like they need to have characters attached. There's no scenario where a character should ever be unattached. A lot of new players fall into this trap. However, because of this, people also feel forced to bring units in lists for that character to attach to. So that Foul Blightspawn is a great little tech piece on his own, and don't get me wrong, he loves being with Plague Marines, he'll obviously love that, but don't feel bad about bringing a single one if you're in a meta full of Emperor's Children, Blood Angels, lots of advanced and charging units, because that's going to help keep you safe from those advanced and charges. But you don't need Plague Marines to have that ability. You can bring it along, sure, but if you're really strapped for points, you don't need to bring a 95-point tax on there to guarantee you have that 60-point ability in your list. So consider that. This also leads to players scamming themselves out of their own unit count, because again, if you're in a matchup where your opponent's got 18 units, you've got 12, and you're worried they're going to get outscored, you're not really worried about the damage output, they're just going to play the mission all around you. Well, by you keeping all your characters attached to your squads, you could have potentially had, 17 units, 15 units, 16 units. Instead, you're playing with 12 because you kept all your characters attached to your units. So, I'm going to ask you a question. If you're against Eldar, does a squad of 3 Death Shroud really need a Lord of Contagion to kill 5 elves? Do you really think he does? I don't think he does. I'm pretty sure the Flamers alone will kill a squad, and then you can charge and kill another squad, and the Lord of Contagion can sit there looking pretty. So in this instance, do you really need to be attached? Would it not be better to have that unit go on his own and provide another additional threat to match your opponent's unit count? And as I said before, I see people denying themselves useful tech choices because of this. Typhus coming in solo, think of the last example, that if he was with a squad, that would have been a big waste. He would have had 140 points, plus Typhus coming in 9 inches away to spread Contagion to get the next squad in. But the fact that we ran him solo means he can drop in, 9 inches away, spread Contagion, do his mortal wounds, do an action, and then still drop in Death Shroud. Foul Blight Spawn's another great example there. Even Plague Bus, you don't need Plague Marines to make use of that amazing Flamer profile. It just deals a ton of damage on its own. So those guys can also be brought solo. Cool. So, how do we go about fixing it? Well, obviously, we've got to look at list building first. So, characters solo genuinely are fine. Like, you don't have to always bring a unit. And get this into your head. Again, Foul Blight Spawn stops advances in a great aura. Perfect for protecting primary. Perfect for protecting you getting advanced and charged on. Typhus, perfect for going solo. Can come in, can do actions, can still deal his mortal wounds, can get into cheeky little places, can serve Contagion combos. Great. Tallyman, perfect. Sit on home objective. Hold that all game. Potentially give me some CP every so often. Great. Great use of characters just going solo here. Even a Lord of Contagion. You're against Tau, you put him onto an objective in the open. What does a Tau do? They shoot him to death. Cool. On a 2-up, he stands back up at the end of the shooting phase. So they can't shoot him, which means they need to now melee him to kill him and get rid of him. But Tau can't melee for shit. So, realistically, unless they're going to tank shock him and get very lucky, they're not going to kill him. Which means you can stand in the middle and force your opponent to put units out in the open on the middle to out-OC him. And if they don't, you just stand back up and hold primary. Brilliant. So always think of these cool little things that your characters can do. And again, understand your matchups. Do you need the damage? Are you against, guardsmen, but all they've brought is infantry? It's mass infantry. Do you really need a Lord of Contagion in a squad of Death Shroud to kill 10 guardsmen over and over and over and over and over? Probably not. Like, again, you've got the flamers, you've got the sweeps, you'll kill them anyway. It's better to have that Lord of Contagion be able to go solo, and then he can do 10 sweeps into another squad elsewhere while they're doing, they're doing 24 sweeps into another squad over there, for example. Because then you can double the amount of units you're killing. Also means if you get actions, the Lord of Contagion can do it, so the Death Shroud can keep killing, all those kind of things. So look at their unit count to yours. Again, in terms of that damage one as well, opposite end, if you're against something like Knights, yes, you do need the damage. So in that instance, attach your characters, obviously. Compare unit counts. Are you massively outnumbered? If you're massively outnumbered, is it going to be hard for you to outtrade your opponent? Potentially. Potentially. So you might want to actually take your units out. Again, Foul Blight Spawn, great in a Plague Marine squad. If you're against Tau, what's that fight first doing for you? Literally nothing. Detach him, have another guy that can do an action or go and shoot on his own, or he can stay in the Rhino and shoot out the firing deck. Consider things like this. So always look at your unit count to theirs, and if you're looking massively outnumbered and you don't feel like you could stand on primary and just stay alive, sometimes it's better to have the extra units to help you out in the trade wars. And again, can you force bad trades? Are you against, let's say, you're against the mirror match, and the mirror match has 3 full squads of Plague Marines and 3 full 6-man squads of Death Shroud. Incredibly, incredibly scary, but that's literally all they've got, because that's all the points, because they're all expensive. I'm going to put a single character, my Tallyman, who normally holds home, I'm going to put him on an objective. I'm just like, cool, bring some out to kill him. Because once you bring that out, I get to shoot you. And I will happily trade a 40-point Tallyman for me to be able to shoot your 10-man Plague Marine squads first, before you get to shoot me. So always consider, if I split my characters up and give me more characters, more little one-man units here and there, can I make my opponent have to make awful trade decisions? If the answer is yes, then give it a go. Just to experiment with this one. Try it out if you're in a friendly game, just for one game. Maybe be like, hey, this guy who normally would attach automatically in my head, I'm going to try and run him solo and see how it goes. It's not always the right play to make, but having the knowledge and the thought process to just think about it before you commit to your character attaching is a big mistake people make, because I'll say a lot of people just automatically default to character goes in squad. They'll announce the list, they'll be like, he's leading him. Never write what character's leading which in a list. There's no point. You're just telling your opponent your game plan. And again, it might be wrong in certain situations. Just bear that in mind. Don't get too attached to attaching your characters. Yes, reserves. Reserves are an amazing tool, genuinely are. But I see a lot of people struggling and also defaulting to what people should put in reserves. Sometimes it's not always correct to use reserves. Sometimes you shouldn't always put stuff in deep strike that you may think you should. Sometimes it's correct to start everything on the board. Sometimes it's actually correct to put more stuff in reserves than you think. But what I often see, and the problem is, a lot of players often just default automatically into what's going to reserves. Well, Terminators have deep strike. Death Shroud are obviously going to go in reserves. They 6-inch charge. Of course, you know, I'm just going to put that in reserves and just go ahead and put them in there. But they obviously sometimes don't consider the impact of reserves, because reserves are great for getting the drop on your opponent, making your opponent to think about things, but it also means you don't have units on the board. So, what happens if your opponent just runs at you? What if you're against Genestealer Cult Horde, and they get first turn, screen out the entire board, and now you can't bring in reserves and all your Death Shroud die in Deep Strike? What if the Imperial Knights player just runs his Lancer at you turn 1 with Canis Rex, and your big scary Death Shroud bricks are all in reserves? Uh-oh. That's Trouble Town. And we don't want to be in Trouble Town. We want to be in Victory Land. So, we need to really consider the impact of putting units in reserves, and think about when it's the right time to put something in reserves, and when it's not the right time to put in reserves, and stop defaulting to automatics. Now, I also see people, when it comes to rapid ingress from reserves, they'll only ever use it for charges, and it drives me mad. It is the most basic thing, admittedly, to rapid ingress and then go for a charge. You move forward, you charge. Brilliant. But please understand, rapid ingress has so much more play. You can rapid ingress a bloat drone and then fly it forward 10 inches and contagion an entire area of the board your opponent thought was safe. You can rapid ingress a predator and then drive 10 inches and shoot down an angle your opponent thought they were safe on. A plague bus can pop out of reserves, drive forward 12, you're playing Mortarian's Hammer, sod it, we'll give it assault, go an extra d6, now we've moved up to 18, and then we shoot our amazing 2d6 plus 6 flamers out the roof of a rhino that literally was not there last turn. There is so many things you can do with rapid ingress plays. Rapid ingress into a heroic intervention, for example, as well. So, like, if someone's going to charge you, you can rapid ingress 9 away within 6 inches of your unit. They charge you, you charge them back. Bada bing, bada boom, happy days. Lots of plays can be made for reserves. And now we also have the idea of opponents feeling pressure. When you put everything on the table, your opponent breathes a little sigh of relief. And I do it as well. When I know all my units, my opponent's units are on the table, par any uppy downies, I feel a bit more at peace because I don't have to worry about screening my back. I don't have to worry about things popping up, certain weird angles, or, you know, I left a gap somewhere and now it's my back lines. You have that pressure taken off you. So having something always in reserves just adds mental load to your opponent. And mental load in a tournament is where people start making mistakes. And mistakes in Warhammer is how games are won. It's not so much how many good plays you make. Good plays matter, but often games can be decided by single mistakes. Someone didn't consider an area of attack. Someone didn't see a rapid ingress coming. Someone didn't see the gap they left in the back line for a monolith to appear in, because I'm sure that would never happen in the grand finals of an Las Vegas Open. There are things like this that can really just end games instantly. And if you have nothing in reserves, your opponent's mental tax is gone. They're free. They're free to just concentrate and consider what's on the board in front of them and not the possibilities of what you could do. Because that's the biggest thing. Being in reserves is possibilities. It is options and it's possibilities. When it's on the board, it is where it is. They can pre-measure it. It goes where it goes. Whilst you're in reserves, there's tons of options for where things could show up, what flank you could push more, can you get into the back lines, all these like cheeky little things that you can do. So, how do we fix it? Matchup knowledge is huge. You're only going to get this one from playing games. Don't get me wrong, I'm not expecting a new player to understand this straight away. Board control and pressure in matchups is huge. You need to know how much pressure can the opponent apply. Again, are you playing against Emperor's Children? The entire army moves fast and can advance and charge. If they want to be on top of you turn 1, they will be. So you need to consider this. Maybe, in this instance, we don't put as much in reserves, because if we do, our opponent can just run us down. Same with World Eaters. How much screens do they have? Can they push back tons and tons of waves of 10 guardsmen at a time? If that's the case, are our Death Shroud ever going to get a good drop anyway? In which case, is it not just more beneficial to have them on the board at the start to start cutting through the waves of guardsmen? Consider this. How much damage is on the table compared to reserves, both your opponent's and yours? If you have lots of your damaging units in reserves, your opponent can disrespect you, which means if you get pressured early, what are you going to have to deal damage? Maybe they can just put units on the middle that none of the units you've brought on the table can deal with. So now they're going to get a head start in primary, start putting you behind, and you're going to have to claw your way back into the game, which you might not want to do. But the same instance, and your opponent, how much threat can they put on the table? If you look at their list and say, oh, that's a lot of damage that could potentially be starting the table here, you might need that bulk on there to make sure you can punch back, because if they come on top of you and deal a lot of damage and you're playing with scraps, the next turn, the follow-up, especially if they go first and get turn 2 first, can be absolutely brutal, so you need to consider that. And it's also about, are you a threat? Because Lancers and Knights running you down is incredibly scary when you've got Death Shroud in reserves, but if you even just have a single 10-man Plague Marine unit in a Rhino, they have to respect that, because that is a unit that can come out and one-bop a Knight. So if you have that unit, you can force a little bit more respect there, which means you can maybe start a unit or 2 more in reserves than you normally would, because that threat is there. If that threat wasn't there, however, you haven't brought that unit, they're not going to respect you. It's all about understanding the respect there. But also think about board control. Do you have early board control? Do you have Poxwalker screens up the board? Is that going to buy you time? If it is, if they're going to be busy trying to chew through 60 Poxwalkers, reserves isn't that big of an issue, because they're not going to be on top of you. You've got your screens up. They're going to buy you time. They're going to be busy getting out of Poxwalker jail whilst you get to sit in reserves and sort of set up that go turn. And again, are you going to be the aggressor? Are they going to be the aggressor? Who is the aggressor in the matchup? So then we've got to consider things like terrain. How do you break a neutral game? A neutral game is when we look at a board and we go, right, okay, you sit on your home objective and you sit on your safe objective, and I do the same. How do I break this stalemate, and how do they break the stalemate? And if the answer for you is, oh, I don't know how I break this, I need to have a deep strike to get on top of that objective over there 6 inches away, then you probably should put some stuff in reserves. But if it's a case of, I need to take an early advantage and just get onto that middle objective, maybe start on the board. Maybe you look at the terrain and there's really long firing lanes from the edge of the board. So you can put tanks in strategic reserve, bring them in, and know if your opponent doesn't push out screens, which you can then charge into and benefit from, then you're going to be able to bring in your tanks and shoot your opponent off their home or their natural objective quite easily. So you need to think about these things while you're going on about it. And is there any natural staging points? You don't have to rely on like big rapid ingress or big long bomb charges if there's really massive terrain in the middle of the board for you to get a unit in and exist relatively safely, which can then threaten and pressure other objectives. Like 10-man fight first Plague Marines in a really nice L on WTC terrain within range of charging an objective is like, mwah, that's where they want to be. So, but if you're on a board where the middle is absolutely no man's land, oh no, what do I do now? Well, maybe you even be crazy, and that Rhino with the Plague Marines, maybe you put that in reserves, and maybe in your opponent's turn, when they look at the neutral game and go, well, he's not going to walk out in the open, so I'm not going to put anything in the open, so they don't cover any of the firing lanes. And then you suddenly rapid ingress a Rhino 12 inches away from them, or 9 inches away from them even, and then this Rhino can drive up to them, drop out the Plague Marines onto the objective in your turn, and then shoot everything, or even just get out 8 and charge from there, and suddenly the neutral game is completely broken and the pressure's on your opponent to get back in the game. So always consider the plays you can make from reserves when you look at a board. If the edges are full of terrain and you're not really getting anywhere, a Rhino or a vehicle or a good, Predator or something could get a good shooting angle, probably just start them on the board. So just consider these things. Don't get too attached to automatically having things in reserves or on the board, and really take a quick look at your opponent's army, how it wants to play, how aggressive it's going to be. Ask yourself the same question, look at the terrain, and then reassess the situation when it comes to reserves. On to the next one. Okay, we got some commitment issues here, boys. You are not committed hard enough. I see this happen quite a lot. Death Guard plays around the go turn. What is the go turn? The go turn is when you basically unzip your pants, slam your balls on the desk, and go deal with it. You are presenting your opponent your manhood. You are saying, this is me, all of it. I'm coming at you, deal with me. You are pushing your entire army into your opponent's lines. You are saying, here is all of my threat all at the same time. The opposite of this would be presenting stuff piecemeal. We don't want to present things piecemeal, so we'll get into that in a second. The reason Death Guard works so well in a go turn is because it rewards how our army plays naturally. We have high toughness. Now, high toughness doesn't make you unkillable, but what it does do is it upsets the odds of dice. So whereas before, 2 of an opponent's unit could easily kill one of yours, it might need 3 now. Or maybe it doesn't kill it, and it gets to live. You're still going to take damage, you're not unkillable, but your opponent has to put more resources than normal because everything's going to be dropping a dice here or there. What normally wounds on 2s, wounds on 3s, what normally wounds on 4s, wounds on 5s, and in some instances even 6s. And this means that you actually, if you put all your army out at once into your opponent's face, it's very unlikely many armies in the game can actually deal with loads of threats at once. They'll normally be able to deal with 1. 1 is always going to die, that's fine, you accept that, you move on. But 2 starts to become questionable. 3 seems nearly impossible. So why is this important? Because I often see players drip feed units one at a time. And now, the advantage of that toughness and taking the odd dice away from your opponent from failed wound rolls, etc. is irrelevant. Because if 4 units are shooting 1 unit, it dies. Regardless. And there's nothing there taking advantage of the pressure that unit has put on your opponent. Because if I drop 3 Death Shroud squads in your lines and put 10 Plague Marines onto an objective, I give you a choice of poison. What are you shooting? You can't kill it all, so you're going to let me have primary? You're gonna let the Terminators stay in your lines and kill you? You're going to deny me primary but let the Terminators kill everything? This is the entire idea. Now, drip feeding goes against that completely because they'll just kill that unit and the next turn you send in the next unit and they'll kill that unit. So you don't actually get any of that secondary benefit from the go turn. Now, players also don't use the go turn to take space in objectives. Often when they drop units in, people won't stand on objectives or they won't just take space. If you're going to have a go turn, even if a unit's not going to shoot and it's not going to charge, move it up the board, take board space, because then next turn you can threaten shooting, you can stand on objectives, even the weakest thing can, because again, you're just giving your opponent more situations they need to deal with. Okay, that unit, that Predator's not shooting right now, but if I don't deal with it this turn, it's going to come flying around that corner next turn and shoot me off my home objective. But at the same time, the Death Shroud in my face, the Plague Marines are there, the Poxwalker's holding that objective, they can't deal with it all. And it's all about making every single unit that gets exposed taking something, taking lives, taking VP, taking space, everything, okay? Players often who are new to the game don't challenge that threat priority. Games are won on mistakes, as I said before. And when you present your opponent the 1 unit at a time, well, that's the choice. You kill that, done, sweet. When I present you 6 problems at a time, because again, 4 of them are trying to kill you, 1 of them stood on primary, and 1 of them's taking space to set up for next turn. You, as a player, as an opponent, now have to deal with threat analysis and prioritizing the correct threats. And if you make a mistake, I can win off the game off that. But it's only possible when I commit to the go turn, when I fully expose myself to my opponent and say, deal with everything. Because if I just piecemeal it, I'm making their decisions much easier because they only have to deal with the very few threats I've presented them. And then having the go turn allows you to gain control of the tempo of the game. A lot of players don't understand tempo of the game and who has to make a play to get back in the game. If you stand on every objective and shove Terminators down your opponent's throat in the same turn, if we both sit here and do nothing, who wins? Me, obviously. So it's on your opponent now to do something about the game. I am in control of the game and he needs to change that fact. And that is a big part of Warhammer. And last bit, players don't tend to understand when it's time to go, which we'll get into in a second. When is the go turn ready to go? So let's have a look at this. So to fix the problem, commit to it. Don't half-ass it. Hit hard, hit at once. If you're going to say this is the go turn, you send it. You go hard. I want you to stand the least valuable killing targets on objectives. You don't want to double up, because if the Plague Marine is the biggest, scariest threat on the board, and he's also stood on an objective, by killing that, your opponent's not only denying you the primary, it's also killing your most powerful unit. So instead, I want you to stand 10 Poxwalkers on the objective and have the Plague Marines pushing into your opponent, because now they're going to pick which one they're going to try and deal with. Again, win-win scenario for you. I want you to also use defensive strats to absorb damage. Doesn't matter about if a unit's going to live or not. If I have 6 Death Shroud Terminators and my opponent has lined up their entire army to shoot that unit while the rest of my army is also exposed, the Death Shroud, the 6-man, is probably going to die. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend as many strats as I can to make it take as long as possible. I'm going to make sure it's a pain in the ass to kill this squad. -1 damage, go to ground, whatever I need to, because if it takes my opponent's entire army to kill that one unit, that means nothing else has been shot, which means they're all free next turn to smash my opponent to smithereens. You're using defensive strats to make your opponent have to spend more dice in the same place, rather than trying to make something live. So even if your opponent's entire army is staring at you, make sure they pay for it. Make them have to commit to killing that unit. As I said, commit to it. Move guns out to get angles. I don't care if your Predator can't get an angle to shoot this turn. If it's the go turn, that Predator better be bombing it. Even advancing if he's got a... So like next turn, he's threatening something. Because now he's projecting threat. Even though he's not shooting, he's saying, hey, deal with me or I'm going to come around this corner and blow you up. It's all about presenting threats to your opponent all at the same time and giving them too much to deal with. But when is it right to go turn? Again, set up your unit's Contagion. It's all about the Contagion. Contagion onto your opponent's army in a big chunk is going to allow you to set up a great go turn. The Death Shroud are going to get to come in where they want. You're going to get the good damage off the -1 toughness, -1 saves, for example. All this good stuff needs to be set up. Next one, ask yourself a question. If I go turn right now, can I deal either one of the following? Can I deal a decisive blow to my opponent's army? Can I take out key units? Can I take out their, big scary 10-man squad plus another squad of big scary stuff? Can I take out some of their big damage out of their lists? If yes, go for it. Or, the alternative, can I smash my opponent's primary into the ground? Like, can I drop them to a 0 or even a 5 and then guarantee I get a 15? If you can do that, that is also the time for a go turn. Because if you can smash your opponent down to 5 primary and know that you can hold on for 2 turns of 15, when the smoke's cleared, you're up 20 primary, they're down 20. Like, that can be enough to win a game right there. So understand when it's time to go for it. Look at the situation, go, how much damage can I deal on this go turn? How much is it going to take for them to deal with me? Because again, if they then draw action secondaries like recover assets and stuff on their turn when they've got to deal with the go turn, oh, they ain't getting any points. Or can you come in, like example, against knights, go turn, I can kill 3 big knights. That's the go turn. If you've set it up so like next turn you reckon you can kill like 2 and maybe damage a 3rd down quite low, or maybe even kill it, that's the go turn. Send it, commit to it, all out, all at once. And also, sometimes we have to do a go turn. It's not when we want to, sometimes we have to. If you're in a game that's gone wrong and things are losing, and this is more of a singles mentality here, if you're in teams, don't do this. But if you're in singles, no one cares about points differential. All that matters to you is whether you want to try and win this game or not. And sometimes the only way to win a game is to send the full. You full send it out in a losing state, and you say to my opponent, I present you everything, deal with it or die. I had this happen in the mirror match at Leeds. I thought the game was completely over, so I said, fuck it, I'm going to send it. Sent it all. The dice gods gave me a little bit of luck on some 4-up invulnerables. That luck didn't reflect to my opponent, and we managed to claw back in the game by having a horrendously powerful go turn that swung the tempo of the game entirely around. If I would have been passive and pulled it back, I would have 100% lost that game. So understand these thought processes when you're going to go for the go turn, and for God's sake, commit to that go turn. And last but not least, all bricks, no tricks. Our army can get expensive very quickly. We're cheap, don't get me wrong, we're still too cheap right now, but it's very easy to make our units get very expensive very quick. And this is because our army has a lot of characters, and these characters add a lot of power to our units. They're fantastic, but they also add quite a bit of cost. Plague Marines can easily get up to costing you 300 points, and it's very easy to take too much chunk and not enough gameplay. Players often who are new focus on damage output. It is the only thing that matters. It is this unit kills everything, so does this one. This is X Uber Kill Squad 9. This is Mega Death Kill Boy 5000. And then they go into a game and they lose because they can't either score objectives or Mega Death Kill Squad came out, killed 5 scouts and then got wiped. What it does by taking too many bricks, it gives your opponent tons of great targets. If every single unit in your opponent's army is like 300 points, well, any damage you deal to any of them is great value because it's their main units. We're also tough, but we're not that hard to kill, especially Plague Marines. So it's very easy for a single misplay to lose you 300 points of your army. It also means that you could have situations where you have 400 points units like 6 Death Shroud and a character, doing actions because you didn't bring any small units to do those actions for you. And if there's one thing you don't want to be doing with a 400 point unit, is actions. And here's the problem. If you don't do actions though, you don't get VP. And if you don't have VP, you can't win the game. So it's not good. And the last problem is you're unable to trade. Trading is when I send out 5 little goobers, you have to deal with them because otherwise I score primary, etc. So you send out 6 slightly better goobers to kill my 5 goobers, and then in my turn I'll send out 7 of my better goobers to kill your 6 goobers. But if you only have Mega Kill Squad Death 9000 and your opponent sends out 5, 60 point goobers, the only way I can react to that is by sending out a near 400, 300 point unit. And they will kill those goobers. Those goobers are gone. Don't get me wrong. But now my Mega Kill Squad Death 9 is stood in the open and about to get shot by my opponent's entire army. So you can see how that could be problematic. So how do we fix this? It's all about balance. Balance your bricks with cheaper units. It's why demon engines in our army are amazing at the moment. You can bring some bricks and then you bring some 90 point demon engines. They're super self-sufficient. They can kill 5 goobers. They can deal decent damage. And if you lose them, you've lost 90 to 100 points. It's not the biggest problem in the world. 5-man Plague Marines, still really solid. 95 points. Play them in Virulent Vectorium. You can give them 4 rolls to hit and wound and shooting. That'll definitely kill 5 goobers. Then they get to exist, score OC, deny primary, and your opponent has to come and kill them, and they're awkward to kill because they're T6. The demon engines are also awkward to kill because of their stat line. 3-man Death Shroud and 6-mans, you don't need to bring too many 6-mans, like 1 6-man is fine. That'll kill knights, but often you can get away with 3-mans in Lord of Contagion. They'll do the job more than likely. You don't need Mega Kill Death 9000 unless you're against like a Titan or like Knights or literally everywhere. You can get away with 3-mans instead. So again, consider maybe bringing the smaller size squad. And obviously consider, do you really need the characters? As we alluded to before, people feel pressure to bring characters. You don't need to bring characters for things like 5-mans. It's fine to just have cheap little units that can trade. You don't need to have Malignant Playcaster and Biologist Putrefire inside every single Marine squad. Because guess what? That's 110 points in every single squad. Adds up real quick. So you don't want to be doing that. And then understand the meta. How many bricks do you actually need? Again, if you're running in a knight meta and there's always 5 giant knights against you, then yeah, fair enough, you know what? We do need 50 Mega Kill Squad 9000s. But you're probably not. You're probably in a more balanced meta. There's the odd knight player and we all hate them. Sorry, Reese. I love you, really. But most people are going to be playing a mixture of armies. So, are you against Eldar? Again, same question before. Do you need Mega Kill Squad 9 billion to kill 5 elves? No. 5 Plague Marines with a Flamer. The Flamer alone might even just do it. If you roll 6 on the shots and wound them all, it might just kill 5 elves. You don't need those incredibly expensive units. So look at your local meta, look at your local shop, who's playing what, who's bringing stuff in, and ask, do I really need 5 Mega Kill Death bricks? Probably not. And obviously understand, can this job be done cheaper? Can my, yes, 6 Death Shroud and a Lord of Contagion will kill every single night. But if I'm playing Champions of Contagion, 3 Death Shroud, a Lord of Contagion, and a little bit of stratagem support will kill a knight. So do I need the 6-man squad, or do I just learn self-control and sit on some command points for when I need them, and then use that to kill the knight, and I also then don't have to bring a 300-point brick of Death Shroud Terminators? These are all things you just need to consider when building a list and putting units in it to make sure you come out with a nice balanced list that doesn't have too many bricks and has the ability to play the mission, play the game, trade with your opponent, and not just, you know, send out 400 points to kill 5 scouts. Because I guarantee you, I have watched people do this, and those 5 scouts definitely meet God, but then you lose the game because you just can't trade and you basically can't get any value out of your unit. So just bear that in mind. And that brings us to the end. Thank you so much for staying with me on this one. I know it's been quite a long one. Thank you to our amazing Death Shroud members who are on the screen right now. These are our highest tier of paid memberships. These guys really help us keep the lights on here and really help us grow as a channel. But thank you as well to our friends at Vanguard Tactics, Element Games, obviously the other members who aren't Death Shroud. Nothing wrong with that. We really appreciate you guys as well, massively. Our friends over at Saltire Games, every member, every subscriber, and of course you, the viewer, the listener. Thank you for listening to me ramble on about 5 mistakes about playing Death Guard and areas for improvement. I hope maybe I managed to teach you something, maybe help identify something you've been doing wrong and start you on the path to, you know, correcting that behavior so that you can get more victories out of this amazing army. So for now though, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope to catch you on the next episode. Just a reminder, if you haven't clicked it, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, helps the channel grow, shows the support, and you know, I'd love to make more content. So thank you for watching. Until next time, stay rotten. Bye-bye.